do that. And we're going to start right at the top of page 9. The energy pyramid is a model that shows the amount of energy available in each step of the food chain. We call it a pyramid because the basis of it, which is the producers, kind of makes the base of the pyramid, is what we have the most of. And then when you go up a level, herbivores in the food chain, there's going to be less of them. And when you go up a next level to the carnivores, there's going to be less of them, and so on and so forth. And so when we get to those top predators, those top consumers, we're going to have the very least of those. And when we look at this in numbers like this, in population, we're going to see that it forms sort of this pyramid shape. That's where this model comes from. Now, when we're talking about these levels in the pyramid, we call these trophic levels. Trophic levels are the steps in the pyramid. And the word troph is a root word that means food or nutrition. And so we have two kinds of trophic levels. We have autotrophs. And the word auto, the root word auto, means self. And troph means nutrition. So an autotroph provides nutrition for itself. Now, another name for an autotroph, a synonym of autotroph, is producer. So what I'd like you to do, there's not really a good spot to do it, but maybe over in the left there next to the word autotroph, would you please add the word producer to remind you that this really means the same thing. It's just kind of looking at it from a different angle, looking at it from its level of how it provides nutrition. I want you to realize that an autotroph and a producer mean the same thing, all right? The other kind of troph that we have is called a heterotroph, and the root word hetero means other or different. So a heterotroph gets their nutrition from other organisms, which is where that word comes from, heterotroph. Now, as you might already be suspecting, another name for a heterotroph is a consumer. And so, again, squeeze it in over there. There's not a lot of space, but figure it out. Put the word consumer into your notes at this spot so you realize those mean the same thing. Okay? Now, let's go back to that pyramid. And we're going to start with the tertiary consumers. Now, the word tertiary may not be that familiar to you. It means third level. When you hear the word tertiary, that means third level. So here we're talking about a third level consumer. Now, the definition of a third level consumer is that it eats a secondary consumer. Okay, so this is going to be something that gets its energy from eating something else. And if that's the case, we know that they are consumers. So the kind of troph that it is a heterotroph. Okay? Now go over to that little pyramid diagram that you see, and you see that raptor way up on the top with the little tiny part of the pyramid. That is representing our tertiary consumers. So please add the label tertiary consumers to that diagram. All right, now back to the notes. Let's talk about those secondary consumers. We just said that they are eaten by the tertiary consumers. Secondary consumer sounds a little more familiar. It means a second level consumer. Now, the definition of a second level consumer is that they eat primary consumers. So a primary consumer is like an herbivore, and we'll get to them in a second. But the secondary consumers are eating primary consumers. If they are eating something else to get their energy, they are heterotrophs. All right, so go ahead and fill that in, that they are heterotrophic. And then go over to the pyramid, and that second level down, please label that as secondary consumer. All right, back to the notes. A primary consumer, the word primary means first or early, okay? So primary means first level consumer. A primary consumer eats producers. It's another way of saying an herbivore. All right, if they eat producers only, they are herbivores, which means that they eat something else to get their energy. So that makes them still a heterotroph. All right, go over to the pyramid And please label that level that's got the little grasshopper on it, label that as primary consumers. All right. Finally, the base of our pyramid, the foundation of it, is the producers. And the producers do photosynthesis. Now, primarily we're talking about plants. There are some other organisms that do photosynthesis, but the bulk of them are plants, and they turn the sun's energy into food for themselves. So, in other words, they provide nutrition for themselves, which means that they are autotrophs. Okay, please go to the pyramid and to that base level and label that as the producers. Okay, now this is the point where you are going to go to your green Six Kingdoms sheet. All right, so go to the green Six Kingdoms sheet and find the column that says heterotroph or autotroph. And we're going to fill in this column right now. I'm going to start down at the bottom because they're the most obvious. Animals. We already know. These guys, heterotrophs. We're one of them. We are consumers. We eat other things for energy. Plants. Those are autotrophs. Okay? They make their own food using the sun. They make their own nutrition. Fungus grows on its food and absorbs energy from it. So in other words, they get their energy from something else. Those are heterotrophs. Protists. This is an example of a kingdom that has some heterotrophs and some autotrophs. All right, and that is also true about the bacteria, that they can be heterotrophic or autotrophic. Pause the video right now if you need a minute to catch up on writing this down. All right, once you have this filled in, this is the point where you're going to stop, bring your packet and your green sheet up to Mrs. Habeck's desk, and get your stamp.